Gabriel is here, isn't he?
You just talk around for a second.
Yeah, he is here.
All right. Tell him you're starting shir. Hi da di do 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 It's coming. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech
Forgot it was Monday.
Wow. All right, we will remember exactly where we start in terms of eating inside. Just below the middle of the page, Tes, the line begins with the word Hametzius.
Page this, right?
Tes.
There are 2 lines that have Hametzius.
What?
There are 2 lines that have Hametzius, right?
Yeah, 2 lines. And the second Hametzius.
Hametzius means
No, the first Metzius.
Hametzius means the Kiyodua.
Kiyodua de Bino Nikashmiya. Be approximately there. We are discussing now in general, well, the general topic is Nevuas Moshe. And we said that Nevuas Moshe is superior to the Nevuah of all other Nevi'im. The first statement is because Moshe was Nisnaba Bezeh, this we already discussed, and all Nevi'im Nisnabu B'Koi. So Zeh and Koi have a very clear distinction, which we already did. Then, the Rebbe points out, however, Moshe was also Misnaba B'Koi.
Moshe was both Zeh and Kol.
Koi also. So the Rebbe says that even though Moshe was also Misnaba B'Koi, but the Koi of Moshe was a different type of Koi, or a higher type of Koi than that of the Nevi'im. What does that mean, a higher type of Koi? So the Rebbe explains, brings down that the koi of Moshe refers to Bina, as opposed to the koi of the other Nevi'im, which refers to Malchus. Okay? Our focus is to understand what is the meaning of Bina, the koi of Bina. Because there is a kind of a paradox that Bina is higher than Zoh. Zoh is the Midas. Bina is higher than Zoh. And yet Zoh is called Zeh. Relative to Malchus, it's called Zeh. Malchus is Koi and Zoh is Zeh. Bina is Koi. So how is it that a higher Madrigi, which is Bina, is Koi, and Zoh, which is a lower Madrigi, is Zeh? We have, so to speak, identified and explained that Zeh is, it's by definition, is higher than Koi. So therefore, Zoh should be, I hope you don't lose the Zoh and Zeh. Zoh should be on a higher Madrigi than Bina.
Zoh is
Ze'erampi. And yet we say no. Despite the fact that Zoh is Koi, and Zoh is Zeh, and Bina is Koi, Bina remains higher than Zoh. And this is what we are discussing for quite some time here, both in terms of the number of lines and in terms of our talks.
Just to know, to say Zeh and Koi is exactly the same, or this is the same line as one and Nachor Gach.
Right.
Nachor Gach is Koi and
One is Zeh. Right, there are different, different aspects, connection or whatever. But in other words, this is an important thing to understand Bichlal in Yiddishkeit, in Torah, in Chassidus. That higher and lower have a pnimistic meaning. You know what a pnimistic meaning? Are based on what level of truth they represent, not what level of power they represent, of effect. So the Rebbe explained already, and we're in the middle of that. First, just to revisit the whole principle. Zoh is called Zeh. Why is Zoh Zeh? We already discussed this. Zoh is Midas. Midas, Midas is something, even in a human being, is something that you actually experience. Take it to a more tangible, even to a lower level. We always speak about this. We have touch and we have sight. When you see something or you touch something. When you see, you're not in touch with the thing. It's very real, but the reality is of a different kind than one that really affects you. Whereas when you touch it, you actually feel the Metzius itself. Which is superior, sight or touch? So we have already said many times that sight is infinitely superior. And yet, touch really hits you. So how do you rectify, how do you resolve this seeming paradox? In a certain sense, touch is more zeh than sight. For example, sight you can close your eyes, and the object is still there, you can close your eyes, all of a sudden it disappears. Touch, you can't make it disappear. It's there, it's real in your hand. Because you have the real thing. How do you reconcile this whole paradox? So for this the Rebbe explains that the difference, say, between Bina and Zoh, Midas and Bina, and Seichel, even though Zoh is K and this is Zeh, Zoh is Zeh and Bina is K. However, that which Bina understands in a Koi, in a indirect manner, in a Metzius manner, is a much superior aspect than that which Zoh has in a direct manner. And that is the significance of it. It's a much superior aspect. So we'll discuss it a little bit more and then we'll go inside. Let's take a very general question. We have the human being and we have the animals. The animals also seem to be acting. And some people claim that they have seichel, and which we completely disagree with. But the reason they say they have seichel is because they do certain things that appear to be very smart. What is the primary difference between a human being and an animal? Again, it's very important to understand for ourselves, because sometimes when we are getting drawn into an animalistic attitude, we have to remind ourselves, hey, you're not an animal, you're a human being. Come back, wake up. What is the primary difference?
Instinct.
Huh?
Instinct. The animal works on instinct.
What is that?
It's just thought.
What is that? This is, oh, fine, we know that. What is that?
Millions.
Huh?
Millions.
Yeah, so how is that different than what a human being is relating to?
An animal is, what's for dinner? I don't know. An animal works on like a my dinner, your dinner. It's just a total.
Yeah, well, this
Explaining.
is just what makes a human being so infinitely superior to the animal, to the extent that a human being, by Torah law, and instructed, you can take an animal and shecht it and eat it. What are you doing? It's a living beast, it's a living thing.
Reactive.
Huh?
Reactive. Everything is reaction.
We see the inside of a person, and animals see the outside.
It has no seichel.
Okay. What makes him that superior? That he can eat the animal. I mean, imagine that. Without any qualms. The Torah says, okay, it's a mitzvah to eat animals, to eat meat, on Yom Tov, Shabbos.
It's all subjective. The animal is all about how I relate to things, not how the truth of things is.
Or the same. Okay. This is what we're looking for. We're looking beyond one will hit, so to speak, the nail on the head. If a human being is superior to an animal because he has a better grasp on things, a better understanding things. He's still just a creature. When we say that a human being relates to the truth, to the godly truth, he is no longer a creature. He is godlike. You understand what I'm saying? It's a completely different presence. This is what we discussed many, many times, that the world, before the Adam Rishon came to the world, was nothing. It was nothing. Look at all the various, creatures of exquisite natures and all that. Nothing. Not significant. It was all within the worldly capacity, worldly context. The human being brought a different dimension. What is it? The dimension of godly dimension, the dimension of truth, of reality itself. That is exclusively human. Animals have qualities of kindness and goodness and smarts in terms of conniving and all that. This is all within the worldly context. The human being, he perceives something which is higher than him. This is what the Rambam said, the Rambam we quote all the time. The first principle of wisdom is to know that there's a first being, and that from the truth of his presence, everything comes to be.
Was also the story with the Rambam, with the cat serving it away? Is that the Rambam?
That's the Rambam, yeah. Well, that was to prove to the Goyim that a cat doesn't have wisdom. But the point is, what is the significance of this? Okay, so we are smarter than a cat. That's insignificant. The significance is that the human being, the reason a human being is allowed to eat meat, he's also flesh and blood, right? So how is a man flesh and blood? I mean, when you see a beast, catching another beast and eating and breaking it, turning it apart and saying, think you're a vicious beast. What's the difference? We're also vicious beasts. And one of the things that are anticipated in time of Mashiach and beyond is that the lion will be just like the cow, like the calf will eat grass, straw, hay. In other words, this fact that the lion eats other animals is considered a viciousness. He has to be tamed. What about us? What about on the Mizbeach? We take animals and burn them on the Mizbeach. Even before we were permitted to eat meat, they brought korbanos. Havel brought korbanos from animals. We were not even permitted to eat meat at that time. Noach brought korbanos after the Mabul, before he was given permission to eat. How is that jive with this principle that this is vicious? The answer is... Yes, go ahead.
Hevel gave an animal?
Yes.
Oh, I thought he gave this.
No, Cain brought from the earth, from the produce from the earth, and Hevel, the b'choiris tzoyner b'chel veihen.
I always thought it was one brought. I thought that one brought wool and one brought linen. But it was wool. Wasn't it just wool? It was an actual...
The sheep which kind of
No, he brought... No. You okay.
No,
What's confusing you is this. Hevel engaged in herding sheep. mankind engaged in producing produce. So the question is, since he was not allowed to eat sheep, so what's the point of herding sheep? The answer is that he could still benefit from them from the wool. You understand? That's only in terms of the benefit. But the fact that he brought karbonis was from the sheep, it's a befedish in the table. So how is it that we are permitted to eat meat? We are flesh and blood. So what's the difference, us or Lahabul the lion? The answer is, we, the human being, is not flesh and blood. The human being is a godly soul. That is what the human being stands for. This is what the definition of his presence in the world is. And therefore, he eats meat in order to enhance the power of his brain, so he will be able to understand godliness better. That's why he's permitted to eat meat. And Gemara says that, Rava said that I hadn't eaten meat today yet, and that's why I wasn't able to focus in and concentrate as well. Because that's what the human being is the neshama, not the goof. Animals is the goof.
We're talking human beings in general, right? This includes the people also going in this concept.
Well, let's skip that. I mean, primarily when we talk about human being, we're talking about a yid. Goyim are supposed to, if the goyim live up to their standard that the Torah prescribes to them, also have a quality of that. But that's not what happened. So. Okay, so here we have a clear understanding of a principle that it's saying an animal and a human being. Animals are alive, human being is alive. Animal eats meat, human being eats meat. Is there a parallel between them? No, not at all. Why? Because the animal eats meat because of its own nature. The human being eats meat because of the godly principle. In general, the human being stands for a godly presence. The animal stands for a worldly presence. Now, worldly presence, in our context, is something that we can actually touch and feel and have a full-fledged knowledge of. Godliness is something which we know in our mind. We can't touch godliness. We have it, we say, you call them munah. You know, we have it in our seichel concept, but we don't have a knowledge of godliness the same way as we have a God knowledge of the physical world. So the physical world to us is zeh. The godliness to us is koi. Which is superior? The distant knowledge of godliness or the direct knowledge of worldliness? You understand? You get the point? Huh?
It's like comparing the mechanism of engagement to the thing with which you are engaging, that's it. Yeah? It's like comparing the mechanism, how you engage with something, to what you're engaging with. So, in mechanism...
Well, it's true, but it's not, the point is not the mechanism. The point is the extent or the degree to which the clarity is very important. It's there.
But two things that look the same aren't the same.
Huh?
The two things that look the same aren't the same.
Mm-hmm. They don't look the same. One looks more real than the other. That's the whole initiation of this world is. You know, you sit and learn, talk about godliness, and somebody comes from the side and says, "What are you doing? You're wasting your time. Go make money. You'll have what to eat." Or you'll have a car and you'll be able to show off. I mean, whatever it is, right? It's a tough challenge, right? You sit in yeshiva for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and you learn and come out to the yeshiva. Okay, so what do you got? Come on, what did you get?
Well, it reminds me of the questions that come out. What did you learn? It's like, what did you? I didn't learn how to I didn't learn how to fix a car. It's like,
I'm sure after 5 years, I'm sure you can go out and make a lot of money.
I learned that whatever out there is somewhere not the reality. I don't know how to fix a car.
This is the big challenge. Because the world we know direct, and the world is a challenge for us because it's so direct, it's so real. Zeh. This is what we live with. This is koi. And everybody who spends time in yeshiva is spending time in yeshiva by recognizing that this koi is superior to this zeh. Just to have an inkling, just to have a little distant knowledge of a lukus of Torah is much superior than to having a direct knowledge of an experience of world. Somebody comes in and says, "What are you?" I'm a mechanic. I'm a mechanic. I can fix your car as good as new. I can hardly drive. So what were you doing all these years? Right? Nobody knows better the value of yeshiva than a mechanic. He says, I know, but let me fix it. Rabbi, let me fix it. It's okay. Because he understands. He senses that this is nothing. As much as he's adept and an expert on it. Anyway, so let's come back. This is what the Rebbe is explaining. So is zeh. Bina is koi. But you have to understand that the koi of bina, that oyer, that concept, that bina knows the koi, is something which is known in chokhmah only. What's chokhmah? This is what the Rebbe points out. Now this which is known in chokhmah, bechinas gilei hamhus, is known in bina, the bechinas gilei hametzius. This is how the Rebbe defines it. Chokhmah, we already discussed many times, and it's going to continue to discuss. The whole union of chokhmah. This is what the human being is a chokhmah. What is in fact the principle of chokhmah? Again, I have to step back a little bit. Everything but chokhmah, every experience that we have, except for chokhmah, is an experience within the worldly context. Within the worldly context. I feel this because it exists in the world. Even Bina. Except, I'll come to Bina, but even Bina. Chokhmah is that element in us, that very special, unique quality, that gives us knowledge and connects us to that which is higher than world. This is why it's called Amunah. What's Amunah? I believe that tomorrow is going to be 75 degrees because they tell the radio it's going to be 75 degrees. That's Amunah? What's Amunah? I call it Amunah, I believe. The principle of Amunah is something that can only be known through Amunah. That's Amunah. Something that can be known by touch and by any other way. And I believe what you tell me. That's not called Amunah. Amunah is a pshat that I have an understanding and knowledge of something that I cannot have a tangible identification with. I cannot really touch it. I cannot really prove it. How do I know it? Because I have it in my soul to know it. This is superior to normal knowledge. That's why it's called a knowledge at the level of Amunah. This knowledge is so superior and yet so subtle that we are prepared to give everything away for the sake of Amunah. What? Make sense of it. Even a Meiser Nefesh to keep Shabbos. Meiser Nefesh. It's an intangible thing. And yet we do it. Why? Because this is a knowledge that is beyond worldly knowledge. This is a knowledge that we have in our soul. It's a neshama knowledge. It's something which puts, this is especially, they said a human being is higher than everything in the world. This puts a human being at the level outside of the world. And this is how the human being gives the world its real worth, its real value. Without the human being, the world is all contained in a worldly context, and it's meaningless, like we said many times. Chokhmah, this is the chokhmah in the person. Chokhmah is when we know things that are beyond the tangible. We know it because the neshama knows it. Because it's the truth, not because it's something that we can experience, we can prove. And to us, that knowledge is the primary reality. Everything else is completely secondary to this. It's a famous episode, very significant episode, during the Napoleon Wars. The Alter Rebbe, was involved in the Napoleon Wars. And there was a very significant machlokes, controversy, difference of opinion between the Alter Rebbe and many other greats of his time, Rabbeim, Polish Rabbeim, Rebbes, where they maintained that Napoleon should be supported, Napoleon should be victorious. The Alter Rebbe said, no, let Alexander, who was the king in Russia at the time, he should be victorious. This was the epic war of those years. Russia and France and this was the epic war.
The Tsar.
Huh?
The Tsar.
The Tsar, yeah. This was the epic. This is where Napoleon was finally defeated, and then he started retreating, and he was thrown off the map of the world. He captured the whole world except if he came to Russia, and that's where he was repelled. And the Alter Rebbe wrote that I was shown min hashamayim by Musa from Rosh Hashanah, first day Rosh Hashanah, that if Bonaparte should be victorious, then Yidden will be elevated to a very high status, and they will have everything good in the world, everything good in the Gospels. However, this will distance them from Yiddishkeit. They will lose out on that score. And if Alexander, our king, should be victorious, then Eden will continue to have Tzoros Rahman Islam as we had, but Yiddishkeit will flourish. And therefore, I say, Alexander should be victorious. Which is a very, very severe, very difficult decision to make. And many Perish Rabbeim, they rooted for Napoleon. Many different stories associated with this. So all the glory and all the riches and all the goodness and success of the world, the Alter Rebbe, for the whole Jewish people, Alter Rebbe was forfeited in order to keep the highest standards of Yiddishkeit. This is the reality. This is our reality. This is the Chochmah element. Bina is also within the worldly context. That's why it's koi. Chochmah ibemesim is zeh. Chochmah is a different character. It's koi. But what does Bina know in its koi? That which is known in Chochmah. This higher level of Chochmah, this is what's known in Bina at the Metzias level. And this is why Bina is superior to Zoh, because it relates to something much higher than what Zoh relates to. Bina is capable of understanding that which is higher than the world, that which Chochmah teaches it. Whereas Zoh does not have. Do you have that? You get the point? Get the point? Yeah? This now, let's look inside. As a matter of fact, I would like to I should read the line before the one that we pointed before, so you'll see the whole thing that I explained to you now. Ha'oir elyoy shemeir b'chochmah b'bchinas gilei hamahus. This superior oil that made in Chochmah, and in Chochmah it shines in a manner b'bchinas gilei hamahus. Chochmah is there; it has actual mahus, knowing the actual truth. In Chochmah, the inyan of Holocaust is not a distant knowledge; it is the reality itself. Gilei hamahus. This is why Chochmah provides the strength for Mesiras Nefesh. It's not an imaginary thing; it's real. So that which is known in Chochmah, B'kina Gilei hamahus, hine bibina. So that bibina is hu b'bchinas idiyas hametzius mizeh. In Bina, this is the idiyas hametzius mizeh. Of what? Of that which in Chochmah is known. That which is known in Chochmah is infinitely superior to everything else. So even though Bina only has the mitzias of it, but that mitzias is superior to the mahus of anything else. Because that mitzias comes from the Chochmah. So please tell me, I spent a lot of time on this. I wanted to get the point clearly, right? This is a very, very significant point. You with me, Gabriel?
Yeah.
Still, I'm a little not clear.
Yeah.
I understand what Chochmah, when you explained about Chochmah, but what is this Yedias HaMetzius of Chochmah? How can we know this absolute thing that has no parts and has no foundation? Yedias HaMetzius. It's like making, I don't know if my question.
I heard your question. No, it's very clear. It's very clear. Here is Yedias HaMetzius. We understand. In Bina, we see there is a world. But because we have the insight of Chochmah, we say, what is the world? The world is something Hashem created. The world is not a mitzias by itself, but it is a mitzias. Doesn't compare to what Chochmah knows. In Chochmah, the world is entirely bottled. It's entirely kilochoshev. It's like nothing. In Bina, it is not like nothing. but it only exists because Hashem created it. And Bina understands that.
Bina understands this?
Yeah.
Bina is
Bina understands it on the basis of Chokhmah, because Chokhmah shows Bina, tells Bina that there's nothing but Hashem, like we said before. This is the first being. The first being. There's only one real being. So therefore, when there is a world, what does the world mean? The world means that it was created by this first being.
And you're saying
Chokhmah can't do that then?
What?
Chokhmah can't.
Chokhmah doesn't relate to the world altogether. Chokhmah relates to the truth itself.
You're saying Bina, you mean...
But Midas cannot do that. Midas say, no, I like it. Either I like it or I don't like it. Nothing to do with it. Where is it coming from? What is it about?
Does Bina just exist that like we are a vehicle, a vessel to receive it, or is it that we create Bina? We're taking Chachma and then using it in a manner that becomes Bina.
I don't understand your question.
Does Bina exist or do we make it exist?
Bina is a koyach hanefesh.
So is Bina Bina exists in its own whether or not we
Use it.
use it? Yes, exactly.
Yep, sure.
And the same with Chachma and so on.
That's right.
Can a person create Bina within themselves?
What do you mean create Bina?
I mean, a person thinks a thought and they'll take a thought and take it further.
Yeah, sure. Of course they can. That's what this koyach is all about. Can you walk?
Yes.
Are you creating walking, or do you have that ability?
Let's go with it.
You were born with it. If you were born with that, you were born with seichel also.
The Bina is just like that.
Yeah, just like that. Exactly right. Exactly right. And that's why it's such a great loss if we don't use it. Such a wonderful gift was given to us, and we just forfeit it.
So, just to see if finally I got it. Basically, in Bina, the world expresses something higher, and in Chokhmah, something higher cancels the metzius of world as a world. It's like not that the world tells you there is a
It
God.
doesn't cancel anything. It says this is the reality. Like, on the contrary, it gives reality to everything.
But it cancels the metzius of the world. It's like it's not that the world proves there is a God or that the world expresses God.
No, we know it directly.
There is godliness, and the world is just an expression of godliness, not like a justification.
That's right. That's right. I mean, there's much. This is one way to express it, for sure. Okay? This is the mitzias of Bina. There are higher ways of expressing it, okay? But it's fine.
Okay, so I guess the next part, so when it comes to walking, we have the skill of walking. Some are better walkers than others. There's the same idea of Bina, we can take Bina and make another Bina from that that's a better Bina.
The more you learn, the more your seichel develops. Surely, every person was given his koiches and so forth. There are natural limits, but to say that we reached the natural limit, very few of us have ever reached the natural limit. That Hashem has given us the opportunity to reach.
So for all intents and purposes, we can just say that we don't have one. Just go higher and higher. That's how we know.
We don't have what?
For most intents and purposes, we can just then say we don't have one. And just move higher and higher.
We don't have what?
A limit.
That's right. Sure. There is no limit. You can always go higher. There's no limit. You can always go higher, but that which is higher to one is lower to another. They said that the Alter Rebbe never had to labor to understand anything. He looked at something at first glance and it was all clear to him. He was a kid. Remember how old he was. Mamash a kid before Bar Mitzvah. And he gave a whole shir the whole lesson, you could say, in Hilchis Kiddush HaChedesh of the Rambam. And present were all the Geonim of the time.
He did shot 16 times. They said
What?
He did shot 16 times. You learned with the Rabbi Greenberg, Alter Rebbe, right?
I'm sorry, what?
The Alter Rebbe did, and he learned shots 16 times. They said Shagas Aryeh did it 500, but the level that he did it on was obviously, if you remembered everything the first time, he did 16 times for Chazara and corresponding for Tzitzis and all that. You know?
No, but this is, remembering is one thing, but this is something, okay. Anyway, so, yes, there's no limit. Don't worry. You're not going to hit the ceiling.
At what point, though, people do...
But the most important thing is to understand what you're doing. Now, Bina is not... There has to be an element of chokhmah in it, an element of truth, an element of meaning. It's not just to know. That's what chokhmah and Bina is. That's what we're talking about.
We might not hit our ceiling, we might hit a wall, though.
What?
We might hit walls, though, not ceilings. Do those exist, or is that also made up in my mind?
Okay, let's go. All right, so explain this line. Many, we spent a lot of time on it, but I wanted you to understand the significance of these words. That this superior oyer that's made in Chochmah, B'Bchinas Gilei Hamhus, is in Bina B'Chinas Dias HaMetzias. This is one liner that speaks a world. Let's continue. Ukiyodua, then Bina Nikra Shmiya. And as it's known that Bina is called Shmiya. Relative to Re'iyah, in contrast to Re'iyah, sight. Shmiya means hearing. Or Bishmiya, and therefore, once we understand that Bina is in the category of Shmiya, therefore we go and elaborate further and say, Bishmiya, in hearing, Eina Yoideya Etzem HaMahus. In Shmiya, you do not know the Mahus, the reality itself. Rag HaMetzius Mizeh. You only know the Metzius. This is something which we discussed many times, and this is something which, again, we have to have a clarity in. To repeat something that was mentioned many times. If you saw some kind of a phenomenon, some kind of a natural phenomenon, I always give the example of the Niagara Falls. Now, if you saw the Niagara Falls, it's quite a natural thing. It's quite a sight to observe. A big fall in the middle of running water, and a huge fall, and anyway, you experience this sight, and then you describe it to somebody, and you describe it in every detail. Can you possibly give him the sense of the reality of it the way you experienced it when you saw it? There's no way.
That was your first class here, right?
What?
You said, remember, it's Yeshua's first class here, no?
This was his.
Because you went to Niagara.
If you say so, I mean, I did.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's my first class.
The first class he was here to talk about.
Yeah. There's no way. Why? Because Re'iyah and Shmiya are in different categories. It's not one way of knowing something, another way of knowing it. It's a different category of knowledge. And what is the difference in this category? I'd like to bring this to the speaker natural end. The difference is, in Shmiya, you know only how it impresses you. How it's big, it's a lot of water, it's a lot. In the ear, it's not how you visit. You see the reality itself, the real thing. When you see the real thing, it's real. It's a complete, it's a different experience. What is reality? What does it mean you see the reality itself? Now, please follow me with this.
Can I?
Sure you could. Please. It disturbs your learning. Fine. Very good. What does it mean you see reality? Reality means this is how God created it. That's reality.
Repeat that again.
Reality is, this is what God created. You see the actual creation. It's real, it's a godly creation. Me'amit is himotzi nimtza kol hanimtzai. Every creation, it actually represents a godly truth.
Reality is godliness?
Reality is godliness. But of course, we see it in a physical rendition. This is what God created. There are all kinds of different, I'm just saying, what is the impression that we're saying, oh, I saw it. I saw the real thing. In contrast to what I heard. I heard means I know how to reconstruct it. I know what it looks like. All in my terms. When I see, it's not in my terms. I see what it is. In the reality terms. Who made this reality? Hashem. Who gives reality to everything? The Father Hashem created. That's what makes it real. This is why in davening we're constantly, the whole davening speaks about the greatness of the world. Not because we are so excited about the world, but because the world represents the godly miracle of creation. And this is in Riyah and Shmiyah. That which you have in Riyah, Shmiyah you have the Mitzius. That's when Mitzius and Mahus. Shmiyah you have the Mitzius only. That which you can translate in your mind, that which you understand. It's not the reality, because you cannot create the world. You can only know what was created. Therefore, you cannot transmit the reality itself.
So when we, for example,
Huh?
we daven, and we boil and Chokhmah is an absolute truth that you don't make it. You don't create Chokhmah. But you take the world and you're contemplating in the redness of how Hashem made everything and gives you being. That is its boiliness, brings you to an insight of the Chokhmah. But the Chokhmah you don't work Chokhmah. Yeah? Chokhmah is not something you work about. It's just something that you have.
No, there is work for Chokhmah. The only work for Chokhmah is to reveal the Chokhmah. Because our experience in the world become so involved in Gashmis that we lose sight of it. Let me explain to you very simply. Right? When the sun rises, it becomes day. You could be misspoiled from the rising of the sun, or you can be misspoiled from the fact that there is day. Day is a godly element. God gave light. The first day of creation says, let there be light. The sun is only a means to give light. But what is the real creation? What is the godly element is the light. You understand? So you could look at the godly element. This is inside, through the Chokhmah, saying, what is this beautiful, wonderful thing? Or you could say, oh, look how big the sun is. That's a completely different phenomenon. When you pay attention to the bigness of the sun and the Gashmis, you lose sight of the godly element of what this represents.
Rizvainus thinking, our purpose to Rizvainus is to express...
Bina is not to reveal the Chokhmah. Bina is to solidify it in our mind, to understand what it is that we see.
To bring about the Chokhmah aspect into the...
Into actual thought. Like I said in this example, what is the big reality? The daylight or is the sun? What's the significant thing?
The sun is like circumstantial, you could say.
What?
Outside, the sun would be something circumstantial from the outside.
Yeah, the sun is a means to give, but what is the big thing that's happening in the world?
The light.
The light.
You can only see
That's an intangible. Ask the world, ask the scientists, no, what the light. That's a circumstantial thing. The real thing is the sun.
But can we say that God said the created day first and then he created the sun later on?
Yeah, he created day first, and then he created sun to continue to maintain day even after the first 7 days of creation. But it's all for the sake of day. As it says, Hamoyer HaGodel, it's a luminary to give light. It's not just a big ball of fire. Okay. Okay, Odu Rebina Nika Shmiya. Ubishmiya in the Etzem Hus Ragam Tzis Mitzvah. Mekomo came still, even though you don't know the Etzem HaMahus, still, this is the important point here. Idiyas HaMetzius, this knowledge of Metzius, that's in Bina, Hu Meyair Ho Elyoin. It is knowing the Metzius of this higher Oir, Shebebchinas Riyas HaMahus V'Chochma, of that which is known in Chochma, which is seen in Chochma, B'Mahus, the reality itself. Olamailo, and thus this Mitzius is superior. Mei ha'oir shabo bebchinas gili ho'etzem bezo. It is higher than the oir that comes in zo, even though in zo it is gili ho'etzem. It is the actual reality itself as it is in zo, like in Midas. The gili ho'etzem, the gili of the essence of the oil, but that which is known in the gili ho'etzem, that's in Zohar, is, as we said, in Midas, it's all within the worldly context. Chochmah knows godliness, not world. And Bina understands this godliness at the Shmiya level. You know, this world, this is a God, is created by God, and it has a godly purpose. That's the Bina, which is much superior to saying, you know, the sun is millions of miles across. There's no comparison. Okay. V'al this comparison, this inyan that we're saying, that Bina is superior to Zoh, even though Zoh is Zeh and Bina is Koi, this is similar to what he said, that Chocham Odif Minovi. It's an interesting thing. The Gemara says, Chocham Odif Minovi. Chocham is more significant than a Novi. Odif means it's more significant. It's greater than a Novi. What does it mean? A Novi has Hashem's words. He actually experienced the godliness. A Chocham only understands it. It means Chocham is Odif Minovi. The answer is, Mipnei she'idi yasa mitzias shaloi, because that the idea of the mitzias shaloi, of his, the chacham, then that which the chacham knows in the bechinas idea is amitzius. Ulamayla mi bechinas horeiyah the novi is superior than the experience of reiyah that the novi has. No, the novi has clearly what he sees, but what does he see? See much lower level than that which the chacham has in ideas and mitzias. Okay, now it goes in a little bit of a complicated parentheses, but if we have a solid base, a solid ground where we stand till now, we can go into the next. If we are floating around over here, we won't we get lost over there. You know, if you know how to swim well, you can go into turbulent waters and get through. But if you're fluttering, it's quite a statement to make Chocham Odich Min Novi.
More significant in what sense? When we said higher, lower, we said there's a difference between how we see higher and lower in the minor versus how we see in regular daylight. So what would be more significant than, in the context of the minor, what does more significant mean?
David HaMelech, I'm answering your question, okay? David HaMelech waged wars. Says the Chassidus, and the Rebbe explains that the Milchomes, we learned in Tanya recently, the Milchomes that David HaMelech waged was all L'Shem Shomai, to eradicate, so to speak, enemies of the Mevish, of Elokus. Like Amalek, you know, a similar thing. Hashem declared that I have an eternal war with Amalek. And David HaMelech, the wars were all wars to eradicate that which opposed Elokus, godliness. Then there are episodes like Eskanovi. If I wage this battle, will I be victorious or not? Will I win the battle or not? Or even if I win the battle, how costly will it be? Will many people lose their lives, or is this going to be a clear battle? This Anovi is able to say, to tell me. Okay. Now Anovi is able to say whether you'll be victorious in the battle or not, because he sees what's happening in the world. And the Chocham is going to say whether you should go to the battle or not, whether this is a mitzvah or not, whether this is but this is something which will eradicate evil in the world or not. He cannot tell you whether you'll be victorious or not. This was David HaMelech's decision, not Novi's decision, but David HaMelech's decision. I have to go and wage this war, because these people are opposing to godliness. There's no way that godliness can be established in the world while these people are still around. This is David HaMelech. He didn't ask Kanovi that question. The question of whether this particular battle will be successful, should I go this way or should I go that way, that he can ask Kanovi.
Now he's more objective?
On the contrary.
And now the answer.
Why do you need to analyze it? Do you understand the difference? He is asking from a perspective of Avodas Hashem, and the Rebbe is answering from a perspective of worldly success. The Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, asking that Shaul HaMelech Shaul HaMelech, that's what the Tanakh relates. I'm sure there are hidden and higher things in it, but the Pasha Tanakh relates that Shaul HaMelech, his father lost donkeys. The donkeys walked away, and he went out to look for them. And he went to a Novi to ask him, can you tell me where my father's donkeys are? A Chochem couldn't tell him where the donkeys are. A Chochem could tell him, you're doing the right thing. Call it kibbud ab. You should go and look for the donkeys. Which is a superior statement. You understand? It's a Chochem audit minor. Okay? All right.
I can ask you a question. Something on Hasid, but not about the money.
What?
I ask you a question for you.
Yeah, sure. No, just